It's amazing just how much you forget when you've had a week off from Indycar. I of course covered the race in Road America, but as I sit here to write this script, I couldn't tell you much about what actually happened. I don't even remember if Christian Rasmussen binned it. Actually, this is 2024, and it's safe to just assume he did. Will Power's first victory in almost 2 years may have been a bit of a gentle race for IndyCar standards, but going off what happened in 2023, Laguna Seca is setting us up for absolute carnage. The circuit, of course, hosted the series finale last year, and with so many outgoing drivers looking to nuke the bridges with their respective teams, that video made me a lot of money. And since the Spanish Grand Prix was about as interesting as watching Stephen Hawking play Twister on Epstein's Island, let's just hope IndyCar can make up for that excitement. Hey there guys, I'm Will, welcome to FP1 and the Comedy Review. It's the Grand Prix of Monterrey. So with the series returning to Laguna Seca, it was no surprise that the political situation involving the track would rear its ugly head yet again. In case you're unaware, there was a petition a few months back to scrap the track after local residents complained about the noise pollution generated by the circuit. And look, I get these are Americans we're talking about, but if you don't like loud environments, why the f*** are you choosing to live next to a f***ing racetrack, you spineless thick c***? Anyway, McLaren are back in the news, and when you've got everyone supporting the French over you, that's when you know you've truly cocked up. Just a month ago, the team threw David Malukas and his bike off the roof of their technology centre and confirmed that Théo Pourchaire would see the season out in the number 6 entry. That was until earlier this week, where they chose to throw Theo off the roof as well and sign up new Le Mans winner Nolan Seagull on a multi-year deal, or until they get bored of him and put Bilotti in the car. The response to this news has been, as you may well expect, at least you've got fan favourite Tony Kanaan putting out a statement to calm down the situation. Oh, wait, never mind, he's just claimed Pourchaire did nothing wrong and they just dropped him because they felt like it. Great, well f***ing done. When we remember Pourchaire literally turned his back on other series just to race for McLaren and IndyCar, maybe that fire in Barcelona was no accident after all. Finally in the news then, Yuri Vips is apparently trying to work on an IndyCar comeback as soon as later this season. Oh wait, we forgot he existed, let's move on. First practice at Laguna Seca would kick off on Friday then, much to the annoyance of the local residents, except we don't care. This session of course would mark the triumphant return of friend of the show David Malukas, who was kind enough to hand me some content in a session that was largely boring as fuck. Augustin Canapino was also back in the Juncos Hollinger car, and straight away was back to his usual habits. The commentators still managed to praise him though for his apparent car control and recovery. NBC, how much are the Argentines paying you? Oh, and we still own the Falklands, by the way. On the subject of people we hate, Santino Ferrucci has had to watch his back lately, but never quite this literally as he was spotted reversing his way around the Laguna Seca layout. That would make up most of the action from the opening session, however, as besides O'Ward and Rasmussen bringing out their typical red flags, everyone was rather well behaved considering this is, well, IndyCar. Scott McLaughlin would top the session for Penske as we moved into quali day and practice 2. And if you thought you'd seen your Rasmussen off for the weekend, you'd be wrong, as the Dane one-upped his FP1 attempt as he continued to discriminate against his rear wing. Now we've got an FP1 fan at the corkscrew this weekend, and clearly my logo was enough to distract our other friend of the show, Stingray Rob, as he beached the Jesus car in the gravel and brought out the second red of the day. When we got back to green, the Laguna Seca circuit was catching out even some of the most experienced drivers in the field. Power and Dixon spending more time in the gravel than they did on the black stuff, I'm pretty sure. The other Chip Ganassi of Kiffin Simpson also found himself somewhere he shouldn't, but at least kept his car out of the barriers, which is better than some of the other rookies in the field, it has to be said. Up at the front though, Penske's practice sweep was halted by the Andretti of Colton Herta, who has looked rapid in practice sessions this year, and nowhere else. Maybe that would change come qualifying on Saturday afternoon. Well, the shocks would come in the opening session when Power failed to make the fast 12 thanks to the fast starting Malukas. I'm not sure which ended up being sweeter, progressing or beating out the number 6 of Seagull by almost a full second. The other Meyer-Shank car of Rosenquist would make it through as well as Group 2 got underway. We did have a loose bowel moment in the process. Last time's pole sitter wouldn't get so lucky, however, Linus Tech Tips missing out on the second round by less than a tenth of a second. With it time for said fast 12 then, Romain Grosjean was looking to get into the final part of quali for the second time this year. That racing line may still have somehow taken him to the top of the provisional standings, but his off-roading attempt wouldn't be enough to keep him there. One by one, cars would send the Frenchman tumbling down the order, while Lundgaard and Rosenqvist prevented the usual Fast Six favourites, McLaughlin and Dixon, from sneaking in. That just leaves us with the fight for pole, and since Alex Palou was one of the drivers in said fight, it should come as no surprise that he proceeded to trounce the opposition. Kirkwood and Rosenqvist would make up the top three, with Herta completing the second row before he manages to bottle it somewhere. We'd find out where said bottle would be as the track went green, and 27 Indycars hurtled down to turn 1. But hang on, because we still have morning warm-up, and you know if I'm covering this session, somebody fucked up, didn't they? And indeed they did, Stingray using the Jesus car to bless the barrier before the race. That wouldn't be the only incident either, as our favourite duo, Baguette and Ferret, were at it again as well. Ferrucci ending up with a penalty for this block, IndyCar's officials finally at the end of their tether. With that out of the way, let's return to lap 1, Palou leading the way, but not for long, as Kirkwood threw one round the outside of the Spaniard and snatched away the race lead. At this point, it was time to sit back, relax, and wait for the almighty turn 1 pile-up that we've seen for the last 4 races this season. But it didn't happen. In fact, we managed the entire lap without a caution. Guys, take this all in, because if the rumours are true and Sargent has signed with Prema for next year, we won't be seeing many more opening tours like this. It wasn't completely clean, mind you. I mean, if that wasn't obvious by the plumes of dust that had already arisen over the top of this footage. Will Power was in the middle of one of them, the championship leader fancying a last-to-first challenge around Laguna Seca. The drivers would be so clean, in fact, would make it into the 20s and to the first round of stops without a single incident. That hadn't been in anyone's run plan, and neither was the red-walled Firestone, showing pace and not melting away like Cardi B on holiday. Just to add to the intrigue, the favoured overcut strategy was working out a little like Tom Blomqvist's IndyCar career, as Alex Rossi pitted early and began jumping up the order as the leaders filtered out. We were at around lap 26 by now, and not a single yellow had been thrown. This made some of the drivers rather restless, Christian Lundgaard deciding to murder a 200-metre board which proceeded to be as clingy as my ex-girlfriend. Alright, for legal reasons, that was a joke. I've never had a girlfriend. Moving swiftly on, and Luca Giotto was back in the 51 car this weekend. Sadly, no one had seemed to notice, so the Italian got his sponsors some screen time by spewing bits of his car across the road and finally bringing out the first caution of the day. They say cautions breed cautions in IndyCar, and if that's true, Laguna Seca is a working-class mum on benefits, as after this, she was popping out yellows left, right and centre. The first father of these was none other than new McLaren signing Nolan Seagull, who showed his team why they put their faith in the right guy, when he spun completely on his own just a handful of corners into the restart. Action would resume on lap 43 with Grosjean pining after Palou into turn 1. And don't panic, the only reason he's this high up is because half the field boxed for fresh tyres. Further back, Fittipaldi had decided Stingray hadn't suffered enough this weekend and sent the Jesus car on a pilgrimage into the gravel. Those that didn't box under yellow were now forced to do so under green, and that promoted Herta into the lead, though Palou was a man on a mission and storming back through the field. Rossi was first though, and he put up the defence of a dead none. Herta wasn't much better, letting the 10 car by at the corkscrew, which was reminiscent of the move Alex Zanardi pulled on his dad back in the 90s, if you asked for it to be recreated by a primary school production. This triggered Herta to dive into the pits and fuel save till the end. What would really help him would be a caution or two, and while usually this is the stage in the race where the American brings one out himself, it would be Palou's teammate of Armstrong who spun across the circuit and came millimetres from sending Graham Rahal into the stratosphere. We'd go green with 17 laps to go, and I'd like to take some time here to say hats off to Will Power, who had recovered from his lap 1 off and was now running on the fringes of the top 10. Scott McLaughlin either decided that he didn't like this or mistook his teammate for Romain Grosjean as he tried an assassination attempt midway through the lap, Karma stepping in to tell the Kiwi to go f*** himself. This wouldn't bring out the caution though, nor did Lundgaard auditioning for Red Bull's air race at the corkscrew and Rasmussen playing in the dirt in sympathy. Instead, it would be third time lucky, as Jack Harvey went for a smoke break on lap 82. All this time behind the pace car must have been music to the ears of Colton Herta, whose need to fuel save was depleting with every lap under yellow. That was until his team came over the radio to explain that he now needed to fuel save more because of reasons. Colton initially told his team where to shove this new information when he went on the attack with 10 laps to go. The Herta bottle, where the American runs out of fuel, was lingering in the air, but the 26 car eventually saw sense and let Palou run away in the lead. There was another twist in the tale, however. Rahal may have escaped his close call with Armstrong before, but that luck wouldn't strike again when Simpson had his moment of brain failure and sent one of Graham's wrists into the stands as a fan's perfect souvenir. The caution was out yet again, and now we had a 4-lap sprint to the finish, and somehow Herta still had to fuel save. That pretty much ended this one, as we were left with a bit of late race controversy, with Newgarden benefiting suspiciously from the timing of the caution periods. The two-time Indy 500 winner was quick to self-rectify this, however, when he lost it with 2 laps to go and relegated himself to the rear of the field. That allowed nothing to stop the force that is Alex Palou, as the 10 car crossed the line to take yet another win in 2024. Herta and Rossi rounded up the podium, and shout out to David Malukas, who fought back from a flat tyre to do miles better than either Blomqvist or Castroneves could manage in that 66 car. Overall, Laguna Seca didn't quite produce the same level of chaos as it maybe did last year, but we still didn't escape the carnage. We're off to Mid-Ohio next in a fortnight's time as we dig into the second half of the season and approach the looming oval rounds of the 2024 calendar, which, if the 500 is anything to go by, will be pretty entertaining to watch. I'll be covering all of that right here on the channel, so if you ended up enjoying the comedy review, be sure to drop it a like and get subscribed for all of that. A big thank you to the members and patrons as well, who get early access and previews to these. All the links, if you want to get involved, are down in the description below. I'll be back next Sunday with the Austrian Grand Prix, or maybe earlier if McLaren fire yet another driver. But until then, have a good one.